What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my unit review and builds guide for Rune. I'll also be going over the team building and also the tier list of the Light Mythics. I'm a bit late to this, but the plus point is that I have extensive experience with using Rune and the mechanic that he brings to the game. So let us talk about the calling circle mechanic. So now we have got these raid mythics and going forward, we're going to be getting them and they basically let you have a reinforcement slot and that reinforcement unit is going to be spawning on turn 3. So you need to use a calling circle structure in either its offense or defense. On offense, it is going to be wherever you have the usual offensive structures, and on defense, it could be anywhere on the map. And this is going to be disabled for the chaos season. And the reinforcement slot unit needs to be blessed with the same season's blessing, or they must be an in-season mythic or legendary unit. So it just cannot be any kind of random off-season unit. And the mythics that are in that reinforcement slot pretty much get treated like a normal unit. So they are able to get the buffs out of the mythic units that are also on their team. So this way, a lot of the combat-centric mythics can get the buffs from their other mythic allies and just have the extra stats, which does help them. And in Aetherite's offense, the reinforcement unit does get an extra action, which is going to be stacking up with their other extra actions like Heal Force or Lone Wolf, for example. But thankfully, in Aetherite's defense, this kind of reinforcement unit is not going to be getting an extra action, but they're still going to be able to act in the same turn that they appear. So they are pretty much ambush reinforcements like Awakening, and the reinforcement slot is going to be getting extra stats depending on the highest merge level of your raid mythic on your team. So for every merge, you're going to be getting extra stats as if you have +2 dragon flowers per merge. So it is going to be having the same order. So at max, you could have a plus and merged raid mythic and they're going to be giving you the max stats. So thankfully, this doesn't really require you to have 3 plus and merge raid mythics to get all of the stats. You just need 1 plus and merge raid mythic to have the full stats. And if a unit is standing on that calling circle, then the reinforcement unit will spawn on the nearest empty space. Now keep in mind that if there's any kind of trap near that space or on that space, they're not going to be spawning on the trap. They're going to be spawning on the empty space. So you can pretty much try and manipulate the spawning position of your reinforcement unit by occupying these spaces with your own units or with your offensive structures like Bolt Tower, which are really strong now with safety fence level 2. So all of that could be used so that your reinforcement unit spawns a bit ahead and is able to have an easier access to the enemy's team, and they're able to clean up a lot more easily. So right now, this mechanic is going to be in its infancy because Rune is the only raid mythic, but we should be getting another raid mythic this month. And right now, it does feel like this kind of reinforcement slot in Aetherite's offense is an overkill because we just have so many tools with Emblem Lin, Emblem Lin Ring, Emblem Sigurd, and then we have got level 2 safety fence. So all of that just means that a lot of times the enemy team is almost gone until turn 3, so it's not like the reinforcement unit really gets to do a lot other than collecting the pots. At the beginning, when the 6th slot mechanic got introduced, it wasn't really something that was compulsory or mandatory. In fact, I remember many people not even using the 6th slot unit so that they could have more space to position their units. But over the time, defense with that mechanic just got more tools. And now, as you can see, 6th slot is pretty much something you need. So I can see this kind of reinforcement slot becoming a compulsory thing maybe from a year from now. And we're probably going to be getting better Light Mythics than Rune who could enable this slot. But until then, Rune is extremely unique for enabling this. And it certainly leads to the question of what kind of units you should have in your reinforcement slot. So mostly people have been using the extraction units. Brave Felix and Emblem Sigurd are probably the top 2 most used reinforcement slot units. You could even use Summer Gulvig, and in the late game when you have destroyed their duo or harmonic hero, she gets to use her duo button as well. Same goes for Bridal Sharina. Winter Edelgard can also set up the flame terrain, and any kind of combat mythic like Restvalgar, Goats, and Uller can also get the extra stats and help you with the cleanup. And the other cleanup units like Duo Leon or Newer Sather can have the end turn mechanic. So Sather gets more powerful later on in the turns and she can just show up at turn 3. We also have a unique, refreshing, offensive unit like Rearmed Marianne. So she can also help. And Emblem Celica with her warping also does help with the extraction. So all of these units make for a good reinforcement slot. Using any kind of tank right now doesn't really make a lot of sense in this slot. And mostly it should be offensive units that can help you clean up the enemy team or at least get to the pots and then finish up the match. Now let's take a look at Rune himself as a unit. So he is the free book reward out of book 9 and he is the first male OC to be that, and he is a colorless infantry mage and he has got Author of Creation as his preferred weapon. This gives him slaying effect, so Flare becomes a 2 cooldown special and it's sort of both phases. If he's within 2 spaces of an ally, then he grants himself and the allies in 2 spaces the new empathy status, which can give you up to +7 to all of your stats depending on the number of bonus and penalty status active on player and foe's team. So it is good for stat stacking and it also gives you the order status. So in the light season, you don't have to dance with Peony to get the order status, and I've often used this order status to use my air to smite a unit with the warping. So it does help with the positioning. And for the combat, if he initiates combat or if he's within 2 spaces of an ally, then he can get +14 to all of his stats at the max, depending on the allies in 3 rows and 3 columns centered on him, ×3 added with 5. And he also has null debuffs. So this is really strong because he doesn't need to run any kind of unity skill or anything like that. And he is still functional without crystalline water in a way. So he doesn't get affected by the enemy debuffs, and he also gets true damage based on the number of bonus status active on him and the foe ×5, and max this could be 25. So this is incredibly strong for giving him a good damage output, and this is why Rune can have such good combat because his true damage ceiling is quite high compared to a lot of the other units, and it's not really all that hard for him to get the max 25 damage out of this effect. He also has the Null Guard effect, which goes really well with triangle attack or dual strike support because he can easily charge up his Miracle or even trigger high cooldown specials like Astra. So this effect definitely helps offensively. And same goes for his slot B skill in Font of Wisdom. So at sort of both player phase and enemy phase, he's going to be inflicting -7 attack speed and resistance debuff on the foes that are in 2 spaces of other foes. So this doesn't really have any kind of resistance check, which is pretty nice. And this allows him to debuff the enemies for free. And unfortunately, there is going to be the cleansing of Freyr, Attune Micaiah, and Ninja Celine, but still, after they're gone, this can be helpful in cleaning up the enemy team. And for taking advantage of these debuffs, he pretty much has a better sabotage effect in the combat where he debuffs the enemy's attack speed and resistance depending on 5 + X. So X is going to be the highest penalty on each stat between the target and foes in 2 spaces of the target. So this can lead to more debuffs. And he also gets another round of true damage based on 20% of his resistance. Unfortunately, this doesn't get added into the AoE special, but this is like the second layer of true damage, and this is what I'm talking about. We need a lot of true damage nowadays because units like Nidhogger have multiple layers of flat damage reduction. So to combat that kind of flat damage reduction, you need to have the true damage. And thankfully, Rune has a good amount of it, so it allows him to be a good nuke. And he also has 50% damage reduction piercing and a bit of 7 flat damage reduction on foes first attacks, but he ideally should not be taking a lot of hits, and if he's taking hits, then he should probably be running Miracle as a special with a bit of support. And his stats are going to be complementing his nuking playstyle with base 47 attack and base 48 resistance with a super boon, which I guess you could opt for if you want to have better checks with the Ploy skill, but attack is going to be important for nuking. And Pulse of Ploy is the slotsy skill which he brings to the game, and this is basically a Ploy skill, but it doesn't give you any kind of debuff. Instead, it acts like a Pulse Up skill and it gives you -1 cooldown at sort of every single turn. So this is incredible because now with level 2 safety fence, you're able to charge up a high cooldown special like Miracle or Astra with Rune, and then with the Emblem Lin Ring, you're able to nuke the enemy with it. So it is an incredible skill, and there are so many units who can make use of this skill. A lot of the AoE mages come to mind because if they don't get the AoE special jump like Arcane Truth Fire, then at least they could use this to get the true damage out of their weapon on their AoE specials and then loop it with Special Spiral, so it goes well on them. And you could also run this along with Lagoose Friend 4 so that you could easily trigger a high cooldown special like Glacies with the Emblem Lin Ring, and this can certainly be helpful with damage reflection of something like Johanna Dagger. And even healers can try and use this if they have high enough resistance, and now they can just get the Wrathful Staff effect out of their slot A, and they could run something else in the slot B to get even more true damage. So this can work out for them, and they also get piercing now with Tempo Echo. You could also use this on units that rely on their special triggers, like Ronan for example, who can nuke extremely hard with his Snowstorm weapon refined. So again, same idea as Felicia. With Lagoose Friend 4, Pulse of Ploy, he's able to trigger Glacies a lot more easily and just spread the carnage. You could also run this on Legend Micaiah. She is one of the best recipients of the fodder from Rune. She makes use of all of these skills, and she does have the debuffs already with her slot B, so she can just make use of Pulse of Ploy, and she has Desperation in her weapon, and she can basically make use of this and also the Null Guard that she has got to trigger her specials easily. You could also run this on many of the units that also have the debuffs and the other status effects like Validar, and they might not have the minus and special cooldown weapon, so this can help them pre-charge their special, and again Lagoose Friend also helps with that. So coming back to Rune, Pulse of Ploy can allow him to debuff the enemy, and a lot of times nowadays I see many off-season Freyers, so he's going to be getting rid of the Ploy and exposure status, but if he's not there, then you could try and overwhelm something like Ninja Saline or Attune Micaiah and have another unit with more status effects so that they are not able to cleanse all of them, so that can be helpful. And Rune also adds offensively to your team with his insane true damage, so he's an amazing light mythic and one of the best light mythics because he's the only one who can enable the reinforcement slot. A lot of times the first unit with this kind of new mechanic is not going to be as insane as the other units that come after them, but still I think it is going to be a while until we get those kinds of units in the light season, and until then there's not much of an opportunity cost for using Rune. It sucks a bit that now we have to build up and try and plus and merge these raid mythics for our mythic core, but for many people that procrastinated on their merges on their third light mythic core, they could try and take advantage of it, and maybe they could have sparked Rune from his banner and also from the Emblem hero banner, and I'm certain that his banner is going to be getting a Forging Bonds run because it's a really good banner, so you could try and get the merges on him, and the merges on this kind of raid mythic does end up having the effect of your reinforcement slot unit getting more stats. I wouldn't have praised Rune as much if I made this video last month, but the release of Emblem Lin and her Lin Ring truly helps Rune become an amazing mythic because his combat is not lacking with the true damage as we have seen, and because he has got the Pulse of Ploy, you can easily just give him the Lin Ring, and with Emblem Lin he's able to charge up his Miracle and then quad attack the enemy with triangle attack or dual strike support. So it is incredibly powerful, and he can kill a lot of Far Saviors, even modern Far Saviors, because of his damage output, and because a lot of times they're going to be running Hardy Bearing Sacred Seal or Deflect Missile. He doesn't care about either of them because with the Miracle build, he is going to be surviving, and there is not much they can try and do. And it also means that you have more flexibility, and you don't necessarily need to run Ymir on your team, and you can just, go with Emblem Lin and any kind of quad attacking support, and he's going to be just nuking the enemy and then also opening up the reinforcement slot. For building up Rune on a budget, his best emblem is going to be Emblem Lin. Like I said, it is amazing for nuking, and he can pre-charge the special with Pulse Up Ploy. Still Water is going to be helping you get the checks for the Pulse Up skill, and it could be run in his Secret Seal. Slime Mirror is perfect for getting even more true damage, and he already gives himself the 2 status effects, so he's always going to be using that. And you can also use him with Glacies. This is a high cooldown special that he can also make use of because of his amazing resistance and the fact that he has got Pulse of Ploy. So this is a special you should be running if you don't want to run Miracle, because ultimately Miracle is the best special for him in Ether Raid's offense. So the idea is to use him with Emblem Lin, who gives him the preempt pulse, and you also use him with Triangle Attack of Brattle Catria or Dual Strike of Winter Cordelia, and that way you're able to quad attack, and you're also able to make the way for Emblem Lin by killing the Far Saviors of the enemy. And with Miracle, you do survive because the preempt pulse is going to be bringing it down to 3 cooldown. And on turn 2, when the Lin Ring is going to be active, you're already going to be having Miracle at lower cooldown with Pulse of Ploy. So with your Brave attack, you can immediately have your Miracle charged up. And because Miracle is a defensive special, Hush Spectrum or any kind of scout skill can not really stop you from charging it up. And because this is a non-special Miracle, none of the Failed Smoke or Null Miracle status is going to be able to bypass this. So Rune will be able to survive with 1 HP and still just nuke the enemy with the quad attacks. And again, you could also run an offensive special like Astra or Glacies, but Miracle is what has given the best results right now with the Emblem Lin Ring and in the meta that we're in now. And we have seen a lot of Shield Fighter armors, so their Shield Fighter doesn't give them the damage reduction on the 4th hit of the enemy, and that's why quad attacking is so important. And if they have Hardy Bearing, then Miracle is important for surviving their attack. And if they run Deflect Missile, which is also Sacred Seal that is valid on many of these Far Saviors, then Rune doesn't care because he attacks their resistance, so that seal does not work on him and he gets to freely nuke them. So it doesn't really trigger the damage reduction out of Sturdy Beast, Armored Beacon, and specials like those. I mean, sure, it is going to be triggering when their special is ready, but Rune himself is not triggering any kind of offensive special. So that can also help you just kill the enemy a lot better because Miracle is just a defensive special, so it's not going to be activating the condition of it. And you can try and nuke mainly with the 4th hit against those kinds of units. Even if they're running Wily Fighter 4 or Slick Fighter 4, the 4 hits are way too much for really any kind of Far Savior to tank if you give good amount of support to Rune and just, max out his true damage. Now let's take a look at my Light Mythic tier list and where Rune ranks. So in tier 1, of course, I'm going to be having Peony. She is an evergreen Mythic unit, and now we can just try and run Firestorm Dance for the Desperation status because that is really strong with the Emblem Lin Ring. So even with a slower unit like Attuned Micaiah with the Triangle Attack or Dual Strike support, you're able to quad attack and just destroy the enemy Far Saviors. So if you're not running Emblem Lin for her Desperation status, then Firestorm Dance is really helpful. Otherwise, you could also run Attack Defense Cantrip for the middle of the turn debuffs, and Infantry Speed Tactic is also really important because you can give the null follow-up status to your Omni tanks like Attuned Temera, or you could also give it to your offensive units like Emblem Lin herself. And she can also run Soaring Guidance to enable the warping. It also gives you the half null follow-up, which can again help a lot of the offensive units that are going to be using the Desperation of Firestorm Dance. And then I'm going to be having Rune in tier 1 as well, and it's because Rune is the only raid mythic, and even if he is just a raid mythic, he still has amazing combat. And even if that ages a bit, he's still going to be able to pull his own weight because of all of the true damage that he has got and the support he brings. So he is going to be here as the only other tier 1 mythic. I don't think anyone else is going to be here. And tier 2 is going to be comprising of many of the mythics that may function as your 3rd core mythic, and HöðrBaldr can be one of them. So she has got insane damage output for a melee nuke, and she is the best user of Potent 4 because even though Potent 4 only gives you 40% of your damage on your 3rd hit, HöðrBaldr just hits so hard that she is able to kill even Shield Fighter near Saviors with her attacks. And she can also make use of the debuffs that she can do with her weapon, and also the cleansing that she can do with her slot C. Unfortunately, it is not the dual phase cleansing, but still it can help and she can easily clean up the remaining units. And like I said, she can even function it in the reinforcement slot because of how powerful she is. And Asker is going to be in tier 2 after her. So Asker has improved a bit and also gone down a bit. So I'd like to explain that. So basically he has improved a bit because Mythic Loki is not being used as much because she has got a lot of anti-synergy with Larather, the best Dark Mythic. So Asker can easily give his resonance status with his slot C and not really care about her. But the reason why he has gone down a bit is that we don't really need the pre-charging as much. A lot of units like Emblem Sigurd can just pre-charge their special. Emblem Lin also has no trouble, charging up her special and triggering it multiple times. So his pulse support is not needed as much, but still in many scenarios, it can be helpful for charging up the high cooldown specials like Astra or Miracle with these Emblem Lin ring users. So there he can certainly help. And nowadays the Gale Force strategies have changed a bit because the Wings of Mercy 4 Gale Force strategies usually do not get used as much, as we have insane tools to just, kill most of the enemy's team with Emblem Lin and then a Lin ring user by turn 3 and also the reinforcement slot unit. So he doesn't act too much in that role, but still it is one of the things that he can try and do. And his Refine and Remix is going to be this year in a couple of months, so he's going to be getting better. Then we've got Lumera, who provides the stone terrain support, which is extremely helpful for surviving the AoE specials along with Breath of Life 4. So that support is invaluable, and she would have been used before to get rid of the ice tiles, but now again the ice tiles have fallen a bit with Brave Female Robin, as you've seen with my Ether Raids videos, because they're a lot easier to take care of with Lookout Force and also with the Lin ring and Emblem Lin. So it doesn't matter if the enemy has got the ice tile, you can just snipe them from far away. But still, Lumera does give you the Null Guard support, which can help a lot of the units who might not have it in their kit. So that can help them trigger a special against the Far Saviors. And technically she can also run High Dragon Wall for the utility of warp blocking against the ranged enemies. But unfortunately, practically, it is not going to be helping you as much because the main Celica ring users are going to be melee units like Brave Felix. So they're not going to be getting stopped by High Dragon Wall. And because she's got a preferred skill in her slot C, unfortunately she's not able to run Barricade. Then starting off tier 3, I've got Air. She has improved a lot because she's got amazing tools now with Lookout Force and Jehana Dagger. So again, you can look at my Ether Raids videos to see her in the action. And not only she has got those things, but she also has Potent Disarm and Soaring Echo. So she is just a bundle of utility. And Jehana Dagger also allows you to give even more support to your allies. Just need to make sure that she has got enough HP to be completely immune to any kind of Hex Trap, because Potent Disarm only brings down the condition by 10 HP, so you need to have 56 or more HP with her. And Lookout Force is fantastic because you could just break these structures or even use an assist and then swap it with your units. And it is so good for the positioning, especially with Emblem Lin and Emblem Lin Ring. And it can also help you with your reinforcement slot units because you can swap them and push them forward. And Lookout Force has got the Shadow Shift distance swap, so it doesn't count as an assist. So someone like Brave Felix doesn't have his Lone Wolf interrupted. Air is not going to be killing any kind of enemies, but mainly she's there for the support. And then we have got Dagger. So the player phase Pathfinder, in my opinion, has improved a bit because now we have got level 2 safety fence, and you could try and make use of the Pathfinder to use the high mobility units like Emblem Sigurd to go in. And this can help you not only with the cleanup, but also for the initiation and also for the hit and run. So she can be helpful with that. And then she can help you clean up with Gale Force. And Infantry Null Follow-Up 3 is something you can easily run on her so that you could give that to your other allies. And in Summoner Duel, she can also act as a frontliner because she is one of the few units in the game who wants to have Buffer 4 as a dodge skill because she needs the AoE damage reduction out of it to survive. So she can just give the Pathfinder to her other allies with her weapon and run buffer 4 and just try and frontline against those AoE specials. And even with aided dagger being a thing, she still has her place because of the bulk that she can try and get with a build like this. And she of course is going to be having usage in Aether Raid's offense. And in third position in tier 3 we have got Uller. So she is a pure combat mythic, but she has improved a lot because of the Lin Ring. So you can try and trigger 2 moon bows with time pulse 4, or you could try and run the optimized build with curve shot and trigger 3 curve shots. You do want to run her with triangle attack and dual strike support, absolutely. But the thing is that Uller unfortunately doesn't have any kind of true damage in a refine or in a remix, so that holds her a bit in my opinion. Thankfully she does have the Omni Feud effect in her weapon, but she's basically going to be your Emblem Lin or Attune Bridget at home, which is pretty much it, but still not that bad as an offensive unit. You just need to support her well and she's going to be giving you good results. Then in tier 4 I've got Mila, so her isolation doesn't matter as much because even dancers are not really used all that much in Aether Raid's defense nowadays, because we can get the extra action out of Divine Nectar of Duo Hathrin, and they're just extra action units. And there's also the fact that each slot is so competitive because you need to have both near and far saviors, you need to have 2 dark mythics, you also need to have a unit that can cleanse the debuffs and get rid of the undefended or flash status from Realm Layla. So all of that does not really leave a room for a dancer in Aether Raid's defense, but still if you got her with the holoforms, then she at least has the High Dragon Wall, and you could also use her as a ruse and infantry pulse support so that she can pulse down her allies with her HP. And she can also run Barricade now, so she can go the full supportive route, and Barricade is a fantastic support for any kind of tank. And this can also prevent the Celica Ring users, getting to your backline and sniping your units. So the warp blocking is extremely good from it. You can still use her Mila's turn wheel to overwhelm something like Attune Micaiah or Ninja Celine with their cleansing and just give them another, 2 negative status effects that they have to cleanse. So that way you can have the other status effects be active on the enemy team. So it could be used, but the turn 8 is kind of an overkill at this point. And like I said, there are other skills that you could also use for the support. Then we have got Goto. He also provides the AoE damage reduction as the support, but overall I do prefer Lumera's Stone Terrain a bit. So he can also run the infantry skills, and now he also has access to Pulse of Ploy, so he can use this and nuke a bit better. And at the max investment, he always has the option of running Lagu's Friend for getting the true damage and the full piercing and triggering Glacies. But unfortunately, he is going to be still having a tougher time tanking with his weapon and slotty skill because he doesn't have, as much flat damage reduction as you would like. At the end of tier 4, I've got Nerthus, who is going to be a bit better than Freya because of her Fruit of Life. So it has got the gravity smoke effect, which is amazing for the cleanup, and it also has the damage reflection. So she can make use of the Excel skill, Nimble Beast, and reflect back the damage and have better damage output. And of course, Emblem Sigurd Ring is also an option for getting the 4 movement and the Canto. She also has the option of running Barricade for the support or Shadow Shift, and Beast Threaten can also be used so that she could have a pre-charged Nimble Beast. Unfortunately, she doesn't have the instant transformation out of her slot B, but still, I do think that she is going to be better than Freya when it comes to the combat overall. And then in tier 5, we have got another GOAT in Freya. So like I said, Nerthus just has a bit more tools over her, and Freya can also have decent combat, but still it's not really as good as Nerthus in my opinion because of the things that I mentioned before. And a good thing about Freya is that she has got the counter remaining movement in her weapon, so she doesn't need the Emblem Sigurd Ring that badly. So she could just run Emblem Celica Ring or Emblem Marth Ring and still function with that. And mostly you're going to be running her with Shadow Shift or Barricade, and even a Detect skill could be run in her slot B so that she can provide more support to your allies. At the very end, I'm going to be having Ashe as the tier 5 mythic. And right now she's in a really bad spot because as an infantry unit, she gets outclassed when it comes to her support, for her combats, just everything. and her warping isn't enough to set her apart compared to the other warping that the units can get that are above her, and obviously her combat isn't really all that good. But the good thing is that she is going to be getting a refine and remix in February of 2025, which is next month, so she has a chance of getting much better, and I hope that she gets a really solid remix. So let me know what you think about my Light Mythic tier list. We're gonna be getting a Mythic unit shortly, so things are gonna be changing quite soon, but yeah, this is gonna be the light season for a while now. And I really want to thank you for all of your patience. I finally got this out a bit late, but still I didn't want to skip out on this. And I also want to thank all of my YouTube members for their constant support. You can click the link on the screen right now to check out some of my Ether Raids offense videos to see these strategies in action. And you could also leave a like and subscribe, and make sure to hit the notification bell because YouTube sub boxes are about as broken as level 2 safety fence along with Emblem Lin Ring. So with that, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.